I was in the garden when I first noticed the silence. It was a Tuesday. The late afternoon sun was soft and low. I had been weeding the same patch of peonies for nearly an hour. My knees ached in the damp soil. That's when I realized the house was quiet, unnaturally so. My daughter, Cora, had arrived that morning. She'd let herself in with her key. I heard her moving in the kitchen, the familiar sounds of cupboards and the refrigerator. She said she was organizing. She always said she was organizing. I stood up slowly. My joints protested. I wiped my hands on my old canvas apron. I walked toward the back porch. Through the screen door, I saw her at the kitchen table. My table. She had my ledger book open, the one with the floral cover. She was writing in it. She didn't hear me come in. I watched her for a moment. Her brow was furrowed in concentration. She was crossing out lines. She was writing new numbers in the margins. She used a red pen. "Everything all right, Cora?" She startled just a little. She closed the book with a soft thud. She smiled. It was her efficient smile, the one that didn't reach her eyes. "Just balancing your books, Mom. You had a few things backward. Don't worry about it." "I wasn't worried," I said. My voice was calm. It is always calm. "I keep those for myself." "I know," she said. Her tone was gentle, patronizing. "But your handwriting," gotten a bit shaky. "And you transposed these figures here. You might have overpaid the gas bill." She tapped the closed book. I said nothing. I filled the kettle at the sink. The water ran cold, then hot. I placed it on the stove. The blue flame hissed to life. "I made you an appointment," she said. Her voice was casual, too casual. "With Dr. Evans, just a checkup, next Thursday at 10. "I see Dr. Tillman," I said. "I've seen him for 20 years. "Dr. Evans is a geriatric specialist," Cora explained. She stood and began putting away the tea mugs I had left on the counter to dry. "He's much more thorough. He looks at the whole picture, not just your blood pressure." "I am not a picture," I said. I kept my back to her. She laughed, a light tinkling sound. "Oh, Mom, you know what I mean. It's just sensible at your age." I did not ask what age that was. 72, I knew the number. It felt no different than 71, or 65, really. A bit slower, more careful, but my mind was clear. It was my most prized possession. Cora stayed for dinner. She had brought a casserole. She said it was easier than me cooking. She said my oven was temperamental. It was not. She served me. She cut my meat into smaller pieces. I ate silently. I watched her. She talked about her life in the city, her job, her husband, Richard. She mentioned they were thinking of buying a vacation property, a cottage, somewhere quiet, somewhere they could relax. "That sounds lovely," I said. "It would be a good investment," she said. "Property only goes up." After she left, I sat in the living room. The silence returned, but it was different now. It had weight. I looked at the ledger on the table. I did not open it. The next week, Dr. Evans's office called to confirm. I went. The office was modern, sterile. Dr. Evans was younger than my son would have been. He asked many questions. Some were about my health. Many were about my day-to-day life. Did I ever forget why I walked into a room? Did I sometimes misplace my keys? Did I find managing my bills stressful? Had I ever left the stove on? I answered truthfully. Sometimes. Yes, no, once years ago. He nodded. He made notes on a tablet. He suggested a few tests, just a baseline, he said, for peace of mind. Cora's peace of mind, I thought, but I agreed. The tests were a series of puzzles, remembering words, drawing clocks, counting backward. I found them tedious. The psychologist was a kind woman. She told me I did very well. She said that to everyone I suspected. A few days later, Cora came again. She had the report. She summarized it for me over tea. "Dr. Evans says you're remarkably sharp," she said. She smiled. A real one this time, I think. But he noted some minor cognitive slippage, expected for your age. He recommends simplifying your environment, reducing decision fatigue. "My environment is simple," I said. "It is my house." "Of course," she said. She patted my hand. "But all these rooms, the upkeep, the yard, it's a lot for anyone. We don't want you to fall." I had never fallen. He also suggested, she continued, her voice softening, that we put some safeguards in place. While you're still fully competent, it's called a durable power of attorney. It just means if you ever got sick or had an accident, I could step in and handle things. Pay bills, talk to doctors, so you wouldn't have to worry. I do not worry about those things now, I said. It's a precaution, Mom. Everyone does it. Richard and I have them for each other. It's responsible. She made it sound like flossing, a mundane adult task. Let me think about it, I said. Her smile tightened just at the corners. Of course, no rush. But there was a rush. I felt it in the air. The following Saturday, my son Michael called. He lives across the country. We speak every Sunday like clockwork. This was an unscheduled call. Hey, Mom, Cora filled me in. On what? I asked. On the doctor's visit and the power of attorney thing. I think it's a great idea. Do you? Yeah, I mean, I'm so far away. If something happened, I'd feel better knowing Cora could act fast. She's right there. It's practical. Did she send you the doctor's report? I asked. A pause. She summarized it, said you're doing great, just some standard age-related stuff. This is just about being prepared. I looked out the window. A robin was pulling a worm from the lawn. It was a calm, ordinary scene. Michael, do you think I am becoming incompetent? God, no, Mom. Don't say that. It's not about that. It's about ease, making your life easier. He sounded sincere. He believed what he was saying. Cora had framed it perfectly. A gentle, sensible next step. A kindness. I will consider it, I said again. Great, that's all we ask. After we hung up, I remained still. The house was quiet, but the silence had a new quality. It felt planned, orchestrated. I went to my desk, a small walnut writing desk by the front window. I took out my own notepad, plain, lined paper. I wrote the date at the top. I began to record facts. Cora visited, went through ledger, made appointment with new doctor without consulting me. Dr. Evans, geriatric specialist, tests administered. Cora received report before I did, summarized for me. Power of attorney suggested. Michael called in support. I stared at the words. They looked stark, paranoid. A list of concerns from a confused old woman. That is how they would be seen. I understood that. It was the first step in the process. The relabeling of autonomy as confusion, of caution as paranoia. I put the notepad away, in the back of a drawer, under some old stationery. The following Thursday, Cora brought the papers. They were notarized already. A durable power of attorney for finances, another for healthcare. The lines for my signature were flagged with yellow sticky notes. I had Richard's lawyer glance at them, she said. Standard forms, nothing to worry about. I would like my lawyer to glance at them, I said. My voice was mild. I was pouring tea. Kara blinked. Your lawyer, Mom, Frank Spector is 85. He barely practices anymore. This isn't a complex thing. It's a simple precaution. He is still my lawyer. I would be more comfortable. Her sigh was soft, a patient exhalation. All right, if it makes you feel better, but he'll tell you the same thing. It's boilerplate. She left the documents with me. I called Frank Spector's office. His grandson, Ben, answered. Frank was semi-retired, he said, but he'd be happy to see me. Could I come in tomorrow? I could. I drove myself. My car was 10 years old. It was clean. It ran perfectly. Frank's office was in the old part of town. It smelled of wood polish and paper. Frank looked older, frailer, but his eyes were sharp. He read the documents in silence. He took off his reading glasses. Helen, these are standard, but signing them gives Cora immediate authority over your bank accounts, your property, your medical decisions. It does not require a finding of incompetence. You are granting her this authority voluntarily. I see. Do you want her to have this authority? I looked out his window, at the oak tree on the street. I am not sure. She is presenting it as a formality, a convenience. It is a significant transfer of power, he said gently, even if you trust her completely, and you do. She is my daughter, I said. It was not an answer. He knew it. He tapped the papers. You can sign them and revoke them at any time. As long as you are deemed competent. You can also set boundaries. Stipulate that she cannot sell property without your written consent, for instance, or that she must provide quarterly accountings. We can add riders. That would sound distrustful, I said. It is prudent, he replied. I thought for a long moment. What would happen if I did not sign them? Frank leaned back. His chair creaked. Nothing. You continue to manage your own affairs. If you become incapacitated, then someone would have to petition the court for guardianship. That is a more difficult public process. This is cleaner, if the intention is good. And if the intention is not good? He met my gaze. Then this is the cleanest way to accomplish it. I took the papers home. I did not sign them. I placed them in the drawer with my notepad. Cora called 2 days later. Did you get a chance to see Frank? I did. And did he put your mind at ease? He explained the documents, I said. Good, so you'll sign them. I can come by tomorrow. I'll witness it. Not yet, Cora. I'm still thinking. The silence on the line was different from the house silence. It was charged, annoyed. Mom, what is there to think about? It's a safety net. For you, we're trying to help. I know you are, I said. I just need a little time. Time is the one thing we don't have an unlimited supply of, she said. Her voice was clipped. What if you had a stroke tomorrow? Who would handle things? The bank would freeze your accounts. The house would be in limbo. It would be a mess for everyone. It was the first threat, veiled in concern. A mess for everyone. The implication was clear. My hesitation was creating future work, future problems. I was being difficult. I will let you know, I said, and hung up gently. That evening, I began writing in earnest. I bought a new notebook, a simple black composition book. I kept it in a different place. I wrote down every interaction. Date, time, what was said. I stuck to facts. I recorded the phone call with Michael. I recorded Cora's mention of the vacation property. I also began to gather documents. I made copies of everything. My deed, my bank statements, my investment portfolio, my will. The will left the house and the bulk of my estate equally to Cora and Michael. It was straightforward. It had been in place for a decade. I made an appointment with a new lawyer, a woman named Aaliyah Chen. She was not connected to anyone I knew. Her firm was downtown. I told her I wanted a comprehensive estate plan review. I brought everything. Aaliyah Chen was in her 40s. She was precise. She listened. She read my current will. She asked questions. Is there any reason you would wish to disinherit either of your children? No, I said, but I wish for my independence to be protected for as long as possible. The power of attorney documents your daughter presented, they are a common tool, but they are all or nothing. Have you considered a revocable living trust? I had not, she explained. I could transfer my assets into a trust. I would be the trustee. I would control everything. I could name a successor trustee to step in if I became incapacitated. But unlike a power of attorney, the trustee has a fiduciary duty. They must act in my best interest. They must provide accountings. The court can oversee it if there is misconduct. It is more structured, she said. More transparent. It also avoids probate. It is a stronger shield. Could my daughter challenge it if she were not the successor trustee? She could try, but if the documents are well drafted and your capacity is clear at the time of signing, it would be very difficult, especially if we document your capacity. Document it. A capacity assessment from an independent doctor, not one suggested by a family member. We can videotape the signing. It creates a strong record. I felt a shift, a tiny lever of control moving back toward me. It was not about winning. It was about building a door they could not easily lock. Let's do that, I said. The process was slow, deliberate. Aaliyah's team prepared the trust documents. They were thick. I read every page. I asked questions. I scheduled an assessment with a neurologist Aaliyah recommended, Dr. Amara Singh. The assessment was grueling, 4 hours long, blood work. Brain scan, more cognitive tests. These were harder. They tested reasoning, judgment, abstract thinking. At the end, Dr. Singh smiled. Mrs. Fairmont, you are cognitively intact. You score in the high average range for any age. You have some typical age-related slowing in processing speed. Nothing of any clinical significance. You are perfectly capable of managing your own affairs. She wrote a detailed report. She offered to testify to that effect if ever needed. I paid her bill myself. I did not submit it to my insurance. I did not want a paper trail leading back to Cora. While this was happening, life on the surface continued. Cora visited. She was cooler now. She asked again about the papers. I told her I was still reviewing my options. I mentioned I was updating my estate plan. Her face changed. A flicker, then it smoothed over. That's probably wise. Who's helping you with that? A professional, I said. Not Frank, surely. A new firm. It's time for a fresh look. She nodded. She changed the subject. She talked about the cottage again. She and Richard had found one. It needed work, but it was on a lake. It was perfect. It sounds it, I said. Financing is a bit tight, she said, looking at me, with the market the way it is. I said nothing. I simply waited. We might need to pull some equity from our place in the city, she continued. But that's such a hassle, and the rates are high. The silence stretched. She was waiting for an offer, an invitation. I did not give it. I sipped my tea. The clock on the mantel ticked. Finally, she stood. Well, I should go. You'll let me know about the power of attorney soon. The doctor said it was important. What doctor? I asked. Dr. Evans. He called me for a follow-up. He's concerned about your resistance. He said it can be a symptom, a sign of impaired judgment. It was so bold, so clean. The doctor, an authority figure, was now a weapon. His vague concern was being deployed. I felt a cold clarity wash over me. I will take that under advisement, I said. After she left, I wrote it all down in the black notebook. The mention of the cottage financing, the use of Dr. Evans's name, the implied diagnosis, impaired judgment. 2 weeks later, I signed the trust documents. I was the grantor. I was the trustee. I named a corporate successor trustee, a professional fiduciary company to take over if I became incapacitated. Not Cora, not Michael. A neutral third party with no emotional stake. The signing was videotaped. Aaliyah asked me a series of questions on camera. Who was I? What was I signing? What did it do? Who was in charge of my assets? What were my wishes? I answered calmly. Clearly, I stated that I was of sound mind, that I was taking this step to protect my autonomy, that I loved my children but wanted professional management if it became necessary. It was done. I felt tired but solid. I told Cora and Michael about the trust in a joint email. I kept the tone light, informative. I said I had worked with an estate planner to get everything modernized, that I had created a living trust for efficiency, that a professional fiduciary was named as successor for simplicity to avoid burdening them. The response was immediate, a phone call from Michael. A professional fiduciary. Mom, that's cold. They charge fees. It's a waste of your money. Why wouldn't you just name Cora or me? It avoids any potential for conflict, I said. It is a clean solution. Conflict between us? Why would there be conflict? This is insulting, Mom. It is not about insult. It is about practicality. You live far away. Cora has her own life. This is a service. They handle everything. Cora is hurt, he said. His voice was tight. She's been handling so much for you, and now you're basically saying you don't trust her. You're paying a stranger instead. She has not been handling my affairs, I said, my voice still calm. She has been offering help. I have chosen a different path. This is that lawyer's idea, isn't it? They've spooked you, convinced you were after your money. No one has convinced me of anything, Michael. This is my decision. He hung up. Cora did not call. She arrived. She did not knock. She let herself in. It was morning. I was reading the newspaper. She stood in the doorway of the living room. She did not take off her coat. What is this, Mom? It is an estate plan, I said. I folded the paper. You cut us out. I did not. The trust distributes the assets to you and Michael upon my death, exactly as the will did. You are the beneficiaries. Nothing has changed. You gave control to a stranger. You made us look like greedy children, to some lawyer, to some corporation. The control remains with me, I said, until I am unable. Then it goes to a professional, that is all. Why? The word was sharp, a demand. Because it is my right to choose, I said. Her composure cracked, just a hairline fracture. After all I've done, the appointments, the errands, the worrying, you repay me with this betrayal. I looked at her, my daughter. Her face was flushed. In her anger, I saw the little girl she had been. The one who wanted to arrange everything, to be in charge. It had never gone away. It had just grown up, grown entitled. Helping is not the same as controlling, Cora, I said softly. Thank you for your help, but I do not need a manager. I need a daughter. It was the wrong thing to say. It was too true. Her eyes hardened. The fracture sealed over into something smoother, colder. You'll see what you need, she said. She turned and left. The door closed quietly behind her. That was the end of the quiet phase. The control had been denied. Now the battle would shift. I knew it. I was ready, or as ready as one can be. The first legal document arrived a month later. It was not from Cora. It was from a law firm called Hartwell and Briggs. It was a petition, filed in the county probate court. It was a petition for guardianship, temporary and permanent, of my person and my estate. The petitioner was Cora Elizabeth Vance, my daughter. The grounds were incapacitation due to cognitive decline and susceptibility to undue influence. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where she had corrected my ledger. I read the petition. It was 20 pages long. It cited my age. It referenced Dr. Evans's report, selectively quoted. It mentioned my paranoid establishment of a trust against my family's advice. It claimed I was wasting assets on predatory lawyers. It alleged I was a danger to myself. It cited the once I had left the stove on. It mentioned my isolation, my resistance to necessary medical care. It requested that Cora be appointed as my guardian. Immediately, it requested that the trust be invalidated as a product of undue influence by my lawyer. My hand was steady. I felt a strange emptiness, a hollow calm. This was the real thing. This was the mechanism by which a person is legally erased. They were not stealing from me in the night. They were asking the state to declare that I no longer existed as a legal adult, that Cora should become my parent. I called Aaliyah Chen. She had already received a copy. Her voice was calm, professional. This is a serious filing, Helen, but it is not unexpected. We have the assessment from Dr. Singh. We have the video. We have your records. Their case is weak, but we must respond vigorously. We will need to go to court. What do I do? I asked. My voice sounded far away. You live your life. Normally, keep your routines. Keep your notebook. Do not engage with Cora directly. Any communication should go through me. Do not answer the door if she comes. If she calls, do not discuss anything. Tell her to speak to your lawyer. She is my daughter. Not in this context, Aaliyah said. Her tone was firm, but not unkind. In this context, she is an adverse party. She is seeking to remove your civil rights. You must treat this with the gravity it deserves. I hung up. I looked around my kitchen, at the dishes in the drainer, at the sunlight on the floor. It all looked the same, but it was not. The walls were now made of paper, legal paper. They could be torn down by a judge's signature. The next week was a blur of activity. Aaliyah filed a motion to dismiss the petition. She attached Dr. Singh's report. She attached affidavits from my neighbors, from my longtime pharmacist, from my hairdresser, all stating I was coherent, engaged, independent. She also filed a counter-motion for a restraining order, to prevent Cora from contacting me except through counsel, and for sanctions, for filing a frivolous, malicious petition. The court set a hearing date, 6 weeks away. Michael called. He was frantic. Mom, what is going on? Cora says you're suing her. She has petitioned the court to have me declared incompetent, I said. My voice was flat. To become my guardian, I am opposing it. She said you attacked her, that you got a restraining order. I have asked the court to require that she communicate through my lawyer, while she is trying to take away my rights. That is standard. This is insane, he shouted. I held the phone away from my ear. This is tearing the family apart. Just give her the power of attorney, make it go away. So my choice is to surrender my legal autonomy, I said, or be accused of tearing the family apart. Yes, he cried. Then he caught himself. No, I mean, God, Mom, she's scared. She thinks you're failing. And you're reacting by pushing her away, by bringing in lawyers. Can't you see how that looks? I saw perfectly. That was the trap. Any defense was proof of the illness. Resistance was a symptom. It was elegant and cruel. I have to go, Michael. My lawyer is on the other line. I did not wait for his reply. I placed the phone in its cradle. I went to the garden. I weeded. I dug my hands into the earth. It was real. It was solid. It could not be petitioned away. The hearing was in a county courthouse. It was a modern, impersonal building. I wore a simple navy dress. I looked like what I was, a respectable, elderly woman. Aaliyah met me there. She carried a large briefcase. Remember, she said quietly as we walked in. Calm, polite. Answer only the questions asked. Do not volunteer. Do not get emotional. The judge needs to see a competent adult, not a victim. I nodded. My heart was a steady, dull drum in my chest. Cora was there, with Richard, with a man in an expensive suit, her lawyer. She did not look at me. She looked straight ahead. Her posture was perfect, the picture of concerned diligence. We sat on opposite sides of the aisle, like a wedding in reverse. The judge was a woman, Judge Wilkins. She had a no-nonsense face. She reviewed the file. She looked at both legal teams. This is a petition for guardianship. I've read the submissions. This is a contentious family matter. I want to be clear. My role is not to decide who is right or who is nicer. My role is to determine if Mrs. Fairmont is incapacitated as defined by law, and if so, what is the least restrictive alternative for her care. She looked at Cora's lawyer. Mr. Dawson, you have the burden, proceed. Mr. Dawson called Cora to the stand. She was sworn in. She was composed. She spoke softly. She described her concerns, my forgetfulness, my confusion with bills, my resistance to doctors' advice. She painted a picture of a slow, sad decline. She mentioned the trust. She called it a radical, secretive act that showed a break from reality. She chose a stranger over her own flesh and blood, Cora said. A tear trailed down her cheek. It was perfect, not hysterical, just grieving. Dawson entered Dr. Evans's report into evidence. The parts about mild cognitive impairment and recommended safeguards were highlighted. Then it was Aaliyah's turn to cross-examine. Ms. Vance, you say your mother is forgetful. Can you give a specific example from the last month? Cora hesitated. She often repeats herself in conversations. What did she repeat? Just stories from the past. All elderly people repeat stories, Ms. Vance. That is not a legal standard for incapacity. Do you have a specific instance of her forgetting something consequential? A medical appointment? A bill payment? She misplaced her keys. Did she find them? Yes, but where were they? In her purse. So she remembered to look in the most logical place and found them. Is that a sign of incapacity? It's a pattern, Cora insisted. A pattern you are documenting in this petition. How often do you see your mother? Once a week, sometimes more. And in those visits, does she know who you are? Of course. Does she know the date, the season, the president? Yes, but does she cook for herself, clean her home, manage her hygiene? Yes, but not as well as she used to. That is called aging, Ms. Vance. It is not grounds for guardianship. Aaliyah's voice was crisp. Now, you mentioned the trust. Did your mother discuss updating her estate plan with you? She mentioned it vaguely. Did you ask to see the documents? No. Why not? I assumed she was being influenced. By whom? By her lawyer, you. So you did not review the documents. You did not seek a second opinion from another estate planner. You immediately petitioned the court to have your mother declared incompetent. Is that correct? I was trying to protect her from a legally sound estate plan that keeps her in control. Aaliyah let the question hang. She moved on. You and your husband are buying a vacation cottage, correct? Cora's eyes flickered. That's irrelevant. Your Honor, it goes to motive, Aaliyah said. Overruled. Answer the question, Judge Wilkins said. Yes, we are. Financing is tight, correct? Objection. Relevance. I'll allow it. Answer. The market is difficult, Cora said tightly. Did you discuss this financial pressure with your mother? We talk about many things. Did you ask her for financial help? A long pause. I may have mentioned it was a strain. Did she offer to help? No. And shortly after she refused, or rather declined to offer, is when your concerns about her capacity escalated, leading to this petition. Is that accurate? No, that's a distortion. But the seed was planted. Aaliyah sat down. Next, Aaliyah called Dr. Amara Singh. She was professional, authoritative. She explained her assessment in clear terms. She stated unequivocally that I had testamentary capacity and contractual capacity. She said Dr. Evans's tests were screening tools, not diagnostic. She called his mild cognitive impairment label, in my case, inappropriate and alarmist. Mr. Dawson cross-examined her. He tried to imply she was a hired gun, but she was immovable. She cited medical literature. She was unimpeachable. Then I was called. I walked slowly to the stand. I was sworn in. Aaliyah asked me simple questions. My name, my address, how long I had lived there, what I did during my days. I described my routines, gardening, reading, volunteering at the library twice a week, paying my bills online. She asked me about the trust, why I created it. I wanted to ensure my affairs would be handled professionally if I could not handle them. I did not want to burden my children. I wanted clarity. Did you feel pressured by your daughter to sign a power of attorney? I chose my words carefully. She presented it as the only sensible option. I felt it was not the right option for me. Do you believe your daughter is trying to help you? I looked at Cora. She stared back, her face a mask. I believe she believes she is helping, but her help feels like a taking. I do not wish to be taken. It was the most emotional thing I said, but I said it quietly, as a fact. Mr. Dawson's cross-examination was brief. He tried to trip me up on dates, on minor details. I answered correctly. He asked if I distrusted my daughter. I am here because I must protect myself, I said. That is not about trust. It is about necessity. Finally, it was over. The judge said she would take the matter under advisement. She would rule within 10 days. We left the courtroom. Cora rushed out ahead of me, surrounded by her husband and lawyer. She did not look back. The 10 days were the longest of my life. I tried to keep my routine, but the anxiety was a low hum in my bones. Everything was in suspension. My life, my home, my very personhood, all waiting for a few paragraphs from a judge. The email from Aaliyah came on the 8th day. The subject line, court order. My hand shook as I opened it. Dear Helen asterisk. Please see attached. Judge Wilkins has denied the petition for guardianship in its entirety. She has also granted our request for a restraining order, prohibiting Cora from contacting you except through counsel for a period of 1 year. She has ordered Cora to pay a portion of your attorney's fees as a sanction. The opinion is strong. It states that the petitioner failed to meet any burden of proof. It notes the transparent financial motive and the contrived nature of the medical evidence. It affirms your capacity. It upholds the validity of your trust. You won completely. I read the words, then I read them again. I opened the attached PDF. It was the court order, 20 pages of legal language. I scrolled to the end. It is hereby ordered that the petition for guardianship is dismissed with prejudice. I sat down, hard. The relief was not a wave. It was a slow, deep seep. It filled the hollow spaces. It was not joy. It was an end to the immediate fear. The house was still mine. My mind was still my own, on paper. But the other thing was also now true. On paper. My daughter had tried to have me declared a non-person, and a judge had called her out on it. It was a matter of public record. It could not be unsaid. It could not be undone. The silence in the house that night was absolute. It was not the uneasy silence of before. It was the silence of a battlefield after the fighting has stopped. Empty, haunted. A week later, a check arrived from Cora's lawyer. It was for the court-ordered attorney's fees. It was a significant sum. I deposited it. I used it to pay Aaliyah's final bill. There was money left over. I donated it to the local senior legal services fund. Michael called. He had heard the outcome. He was chastened, quiet. "She didn't tell me everything, Mom. I didn't know. I didn't know she was asking for guardianship. She made it sound like you were just being difficult about some paperwork." "It does not matter now," I said. "It does. I should have listened to you. I'm sorry." I accepted his apology. It was easy to do. It cost me nothing. But something between us had shifted. A fundamental trust in our shared reality was broken. We talk still, every Sunday. The conversations are careful. They are like walking on frozen ground, unsure of its thickness. Cora is gone. The restraining order is a legal formality, but it is also a real boundary. She cannot call. She cannot come. She sends a card on my birthday. It is a generic store-bought card. It says, "Thinking of you." She signs it, just her name, no love. I see her sometimes in town. From a distance, we do not acknowledge each other. It is as if we are ghosts from different eras haunting the same streets. My life returned to its routines. The garden flourished. I took a poetry class at the community center. I made a few new friends, women my age with their own complicated histories. We do not pry. We enjoy each other's company. The black notebook is full. I put it on a shelf in my closet. I do not look at it. A year passed. Then, too, the trust is in place. I receive a formal letter from the fiduciary company every quarter. It confirms they are still the named successor. It asks if my contact information has changed. It is a cold, professional reminder of my safety net. Last fall, I got a letter from Richard's lawyer. Cora and Richard were divorcing. The cottage on the lake had to be sold. The market had dipped. They sold at a loss. The financial strain he mentioned in court had been real, just not in the way he implied. I felt nothing when I read it. No schadenfreude, no pity. It was just a fact, a consequence of choices far removed from me. This morning, I was in the garden again. The peonies are blooming. They are heavy, fragrant heads of pink and white. I was staking them. The sun was warm on my back. I thought of Cora, not with anger, not with grief, with a strange, detached curiosity. I thought of the little girl who used to help me here, who would dig holes with a tiny trowel, who would present me with fistfuls of dandelions as if they were roses. When does that person become the person who files a petition? What is the moment? Is it a slow erosion or a sudden, cold decision? Did she wake up one day and simply decide I was an obstacle? Or did she convince herself, layer by layer, that she was saving me from myself? I will never know. That is the truest loss. Not the money, not the conflict. The loss of the story, the shared narrative of a mother and a daughter. It has been replaced by two separate, incompatible stories. In mine, I defended my life. In hers, I expect she is the wronged party, the daughter rejected, the one who tried to help. Both cannot be true, but both will persist. I finished staking the peonies. I went inside. I washed my hands. The house was quiet, but it was my silence now. I had paid for it. I had fought for it. It was earned. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table. I looked out at the garden. It was beautiful, orderly, alive. This is the aftermath. It is not happy. It is not sad. It is calm. It is the peace of a door closed and locked. You are safe on your side, but you can never again believe the door does not exist. I have my house. I have my mind. I have my quiet days. But sometimes, in that quiet, I hear the echo of the question that started it all. The one posed not in words, but in actions. The question my daughter's petition asked of the world, of the court, of me. When does a person stop being a person? And the quieter, more terrifying question that remains. If your own child can look at you and not see you, did you ever really exist to them at all? I continued with my days. They were full in a quiet way. I volunteered at the library on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I sorted donated books. I helped with the seasonal displays. The head librarian, Maureen, never treated me like I was fragile. She asked my opinion on which mysteries to feature for the fall. It was a small thing. It mattered. My finances were stable. The trust was just a document in a safe deposit box. I paid my own bills from my checking account. I balanced my own ledger. My handwriting was still shaky. I didn't care. It was mine. I received a statement from the corporate fiduciary every quarter. It was a single page. It listed my name, the trust name, and their contact information. It was a reminder, a comfort. I filed them in a green folder. I never needed to call them. The seasons turned. Winter was mild. I took up knitting again. I made scarves. I donated them to the homeless shelter. The repetitive motion was soothing. It required just enough attention to keep other thoughts at bay. In the spring, I got a letter from Michael, a real letter on paper. He wrote that he was coming for a visit, just for a weekend. He asked if that was all right. I wrote back. I said it was. I kept it simple. He arrived on a Friday in May. He looked older. His hair was more gray than brown. He had a new cautiousness about him. He hugged me at the door. It was stiff. We both felt the history between us. We had dinner at home. I cooked. A simple roast chicken. He offered to help. I let him set the table. We talked about his job, about the weather. The conversation was like a boat navigating a reef. Careful, deliberate. On Saturday, over breakfast, he finally broached it. I read the court order, Mom, the whole thing. I sipped my tea. I waited. It was brutal. The judge didn't just deny it. She eviscerated the petition. She called Cora's evidence self-serving and medically insubstantial. She mentioned the cottage financing. He pushed his eggs around his plate. I didn't know any of that. Cora just told me you were being stubborn, that you were vulnerable. I know what she told you, I said. Why didn't you send it to me? The order. What would you have done with it? I asked. It was a genuine question. He thought, I don't know. Maybe I would have believed you sooner. It was not about belief, I said. It was about the law. The law believed me. That was enough. He looked down. I should have demanded to see it. I should have called the lawyer myself. I was lazy. I took the easy path. I let her be the narrator. You trusted your sister, I said. That is not a crime. It feels like one, he said softly. We sat in silence for a while. The clock ticked. A robin sang outside the window. She's not doing well, he said finally. The divorce was messy. The financial stuff, it's taken a toll. She's angry all the time. I did not ask for details. I did not want her anger in my kitchen. It was a choice, a boundary. I am sorry she is in pain, I said, and I was in an abstract way. I was sorry for the person she had become, the person who caused herself so much pain by trying to take what wasn't hers. She won't talk about what happened, Michael said. Not really. If I bring it up, she says the system failed. She says the judge was biased. She says your lawyer manipulated you. I nodded. It was the story she needed to survive. I understood that necessity, even as it erased me. Do you want to see her again? He asked. Ever? The question hung in the air. I considered it. Not from emotion, but from practicality. What would it achieve? A scene, a rehashing of grievances, a demand for an apology that would never be sincere. No, I said. The bridge is not burned. It was dismantled brick by the court. To try to rebuild it would be to pretend those bricks don't exist. I cannot pretend. He accepted that. He didn't argue. He stayed the weekend. We went for a walk in the park. We talked about books. It was strained but not unpleasant. It was a new relationship with lower expectations. It was survivable. After he left, I felt a deep fatigue. The visit had been a reminder, a prod at a wound that was scarring over. It was not a setback, just an acknowledgement of the damage. I decided to travel, a small trip, something I had always put off. I booked a train journey, a scenic route through the mountains. I went alone. I had a small cabin. I watched the world go by. Trees, rocks, rivers, it was vast and impersonal. It had no opinion of me, it asked for nothing. I met other travelers, an elderly couple from Wisconsin, a young woman going to visit her brother. We shared meals in the dining car. We talked about the scenery, about where we were from. No one asked about my family. I was just Helen from the town with the old courthouse. It was a liberation. When I returned, the house felt different. Not just a refuge, a base, a place I could leave and return to. That was important. It proved I was not just hiding, I was living. I began to write, not in the black notebook. That was a record of war. I wrote in a new journal, a soft-covered one with blank pages. I wrote descriptions of the light on the train window, of the taste of the dining car coffee, of the smell of pine through the open window. I did not write about feelings. I wrote about sensations. It grounded me. A year after the court order, Aaliyah Chen called. It was a professional check-in. She asked if I had any issues, if Cora had attempted any contact. She had not. The restraining order expires next month, Aaliyah said. Do you want to renew it? We can file a simple motion. I thought about it. The order was a piece of paper. Its power was mostly symbolic now, but symbols mattered. No, I said, let it expire. Are you sure? It offers a layer of legal protection. If she contacts me after it expires, it will be a new choice, a new action. The old order has done its job. I don't want to live under a permanent injunction. It feels like I am still fighting. I am not fighting anymore. Aaliyah was quiet for a moment. I understand. You've moved on. That's the real victory. It's not a victory, I corrected gently. It's a state of being, but thank you. We said goodbye. I appreciated her. She had been a steadfast ally in a dark time, but I was glad to end that chapter of our relationship, too. The order expired. Nothing happened. The sky did not fall. Cora did not appear at my door. The silence held. I turned 75. I had a small party. Maureen from the library came. A few neighbors. Michael called. He sent flowers. It was nice. Undramatic. I blew out a single candle on a slice of cake. I made no wish. I had everything I needed. That summer, I hired a young man to help with the heavier garden work. His name was Leo. He was a college student. He was respectful and strong. He turned the compost. He trimmed the hedges. We worked in companionable silence sometimes. Other times, he talked about his classes. He was studying engineering. He had a bright future. One afternoon, he was hauling bags of mulch. He stopped, wiping his brow. You have a great setup here, Mrs. Fairmont. This house, this garden, it's solid. Thank you, Leo. I think so, too. It's good you can stay in it. My grandma had to sell her place, go into a home. It broke her spirit, I think. I nodded. It is a precious thing to be at home. He didn't know the half of it. To him, I was just a nice old lady with a nice old house. That was a gift. To be seen as ordinary, unremarkable. After being seen as a problem to be solved, it was a profound relief. I paid him well. I wrote the checks myself. I noted the amount in my ledger, in my own shaky hand. The following winter, I received a formal-looking envelope. It was from the county clerk's office. My heart gave a single, hard thump, an old fear reflexively triggered. It was not about me. It was a jury summons. For me, Helen Fairmont. I almost laughed. The state, which my daughter had petitioned to declare me incapable, was now summoning me as a competent citizen to help administer justice. The irony was perfect and quiet. I filled out the form. I confirmed I was over 75, which allowed me to be excused if I wished. I did not wish. I checked the box stating I was available to serve. I was not called, but the fact that I could be was a quiet triumph, a bureaucratic affirmation of my personhood. I filed the summons with my important papers. Time continued its soft, relentless march. My friends began to face their own challenges, hip replacements, the deaths of spouses. We supported each other with casseroles and quiet conversations. We did not shy away from the realities of aging. We acknowledged them. We planned for them. There was no panic, just practicality. I updated my advance healthcare directive. I made my wishes very clear. I appointed the professional fiduciary as my healthcare agent. I gave copies to my primary doctor and to Aaliyah Chen. I told Michael about it. He understood. He didn't argue. "It's clean," he said. "It's what you want, I get it now." That was the final gift of the whole ordeal. Clarity. There were no unspoken assumptions left. Everything was documented, communicated. It was sad in a way, but it was also peaceful. One afternoon, I was cleaning out the hall closet. I found a box of old photographs. I sat on the floor and went through them. There were pictures of Cora as a baby, as a gap-toothed second grader, as a teenager scowling at the camera. There was a photo of her in my garden holding a basket of peas. She was smiling, a real, unguarded smile. I looked at that face, the young, hopeful face. I felt a sorrow then, a deep, oceanic sorrow, not for what she did, but for what was lost long before the court papers. The connection that should have been there that wasn't strong enough to withstand whatever it was. Greed, fear, a sense of entitlement I would never truly know. I did not throw the pictures away. I put them back in the box. I put the box on a high shelf. They were part of the history of the house. They did not need to be part of my daily life. I had a will drawn long ago. I saw no need to change it. The trust would distribute the assets. The house would be sold. The proceeds would be split evenly between Cora and Michael. It was fair. It was what I had always intended. Her actions had not changed my character, only my precautions. Sometimes, in the deep quiet of the night, I would wonder what she would do with the money. Would it soothe her? Would it feel like a victory or a guilty consolation prize? I hoped it would be neither. I hoped it would just be money, useful but meaningless. I continued to live. I developed a minor heart arrhythmia. It was well controlled with medication. I told Dr. Singh about it at my annual checkup. She adjusted my prescriptions. She said I was remarkably healthy. I thanked her. I paid her bill. The garden is less demanding now. I've planted more perennials. They come back every year with little fuss. I have a bench under the old maple tree. I sit there in the evenings. I watch the light change. This is the long aftermath. It is not a story of revenge. There was no moment of confrontation where she saw the error of her ways. There was no dramatic reconciliation. There was the law, and then there was life after the law. The justice was quiet. It was the judge's words on a page. It was the restraining order that expired without being needed. It was the trust that sat undisturbed. It was me living competently in my home day after day. It was the absence of her presence. That was the consequence, an absence. I am not happier than I was before. I am more aware. I know the price of things. I know the weight of a door closed. I know the sound of a silence you have chosen. But I am also more myself, defined not by my role as a mother, but by my actions as a person. A person who gardened and read and volunteered and took a train trip alone. A person who fought a quiet, procedural war and won. A person who learned to live with a certain kind of solitude. It is enough. It is more than enough. Yesterday, I was at the library. I was reshelving books in the fiction section. A young mother came in with a little girl. The girl was about 4. She was chattering, pulling picture books from the low shelves. The mother was patient. She knelt down and helped her choose. "We can take 3, sweetie," the mother said. "Which ones do you love?" The girl held up a book with a dragon on the cover. "This one, and this one, and this one." She was radiant with the joy of choice. The mother smiled. She took the books. "Good choices, let's go check out." They walked toward the front desk. The girls skipped. The mother held her hand. I watched them. I felt a pang, but it was not sharp. It was an old ache, familiar as a creaky floorboard. I finished shelving the books. I went back to the workroom. Maureen was there, stamping new arrivals. "Everything all right, Helen?" "Yes," I said, and I meant it. "Everything is as it should be." I took my coat and walked home. The evening was cool. The streetlights were beginning to glow. My house was at the end of the block. The porch light was on. I had left it on for myself. I went inside. I made tea. I sat in my chair by the window. The quiet settled around me. It was not an emptiness. It was a space I had fought for, a space I now filled with the simple facts of my own existence. This is the end of the story. There is no more plot, only life in its ordinary, unremarkable flow. I have my house. I have my mind. I have the peace of knowing I defended them both. But in the deepest quiet, when the tea is gone and the light is faint, one question always remains, not as a cry, but as a whisper. A whisper for which there is no answer. What does she tell herself about me now?